All right, so we got the 2020 Harley Iron, and we've done a few mods, if you guys have been following along on the playlist on this bike, but there's one thing I do want to sort out with this, and that is our factory bars. Now, they're not terrible, they're fine. I mean, some people go with the big tall bars, big Z bars and whatnot. I'm not a big fan of those personally. The look of this bike for me is more of like a lower profile, and I really like the way that everything comes together on this. So I didn't want to deviate from that too much. But if you look at these bars, you could see how they come straight here and then they angle backwards. So you have like that turn that's got your hand like that, especially on the clutch handle. So when I'm sitting on the bike here like this, you can see sort of around my phone thing, my hand is like this and I'm pulling like this, and my arm wants to be more straight. So that's just kind of like this weird angle that my hand's at, like kind of like that. It's a little hard to see just the way that everything is. But after pulling the clutch a bunch of times with your hand at that angle and that's your resting position, it is a little bit tiring, and I want to go with something a little bit different. And I think we have a decent solution. I'm not entirely sure how this is all going to work yet, but we have these bars here. These are a Kraus bar. They're their Moto style bar, but it doesn't have that little top bit on there. So it's got more of a straighter bar, as you can see, like that. That angle is a little less. So your hand should be more straight as you're pulling in the clutch and all of that. So you can see kind of how that's different. Once we get the old ones off, you'll really be able to see when they're side by side. But what I want to do now is I'm going to loosen up our center clamp here and get the gauge out of the way. And then I'm just going to see if I can maybe manipulate these bars out of the way somewhat. All right, so we got our 1/4 inch Allen key here on our 3/8 ratchet. Just be careful with the paint and all of that. Loosen these guys off. This one I broke free already, but kind of a little bit tricky doing it one-handedly. So now with our top clamp bolts out, you can see our gauge still has the wiring and everything on it, but we're just going to sneak our bars out the back this way and then see how we can get our other ones to get into position. Just kind of see how everything's going to fit. All right, so we got our new bars more or less loosely in place. I got our original throttle lever here on. I just ended up just taking this off and then sliding this on with the cable still attached, so I didn't have to mess with that just yet, just because it gives me a good position. So when I do loosen off our cables, I'm not going to be dropping anything or whatever. So it's just in a better position for that. Got everything off on this side, just dangling. And then our stock bars are here on the ground. And as you can see, we do have our grip here on this side. And this is what the stock grips look like. They do wear. And I wanted to go with something a little bit better. So I ended up going with these Vans grips. This is the V twin lock-on grip set, made in USA, and they look just like that. So should have nice grip to it and should really go along with our black theme here on the bike. And it has this clamp right here. It's going to take an Allen key, loosen them off, and then I'm going to get this grip into place. You can see our bars do appear to be longer, which is nice because that's going to allow us to have that real estate I was worried about, hopefully. So let's get this grip on, and I can start putting this side together for our clutch handle, and then we can work on getting our brake side all put back together. Show you guys what this final result all looks like and how everything fits. I got pretty much everything put together on our bars here. You can see our throttle here has now been changed up. And just a little tip about these, if you know, you know, there's those little brass inserts, and then there's just a ball on your throttle. There's 2 cables, and you want to be real careful because those little brass things fall off. And I had one fall down in the bike somewhere. And yeah, I was looking around, could not find it. I just gave the bike a little shake, you know, side to side, and it ended up falling out. So got lucky on that one, but those are really easy to lose. So make sure you either have extras with you, or you make sure that you don't drop yours like I did. But we're all back together. I have to do some final adjustments on the throttle. Everything seems to be working. Really nice grip to it. There's a lot more reach on these bars for sure. So I'm gonna have to see how, when I ride it, how it feels and everything, but I do like the fact that my arm is more out than before where it was in like this. I'm gonna grab the other bars. I can show you guys exactly how much different these are, because it is significant, which is good, and hopefully will be a really nice riding position. So these are our old bars, so you can see how much. Just gotta set that in there without scratching anything. You can see how much these came in compared to these new ones. So now we've got that cool Moto bar style, but it's still low down. Everything's still at the stock height and everything like that. And I didn't see anybody else install these on a iron, so I just wanted to make sure that this worked. And if you don't have a fairing, pretty simple stuff, honestly. I'd have to tie up my wiring and everything, because there are holes and little wire clips in the factory bars on this side. So we're gonna have to find a solution for our wiring, which is not gonna be a big deal, because I do have some those little rubber ones coming from Amazon that are supposed to be for tying up things for motorcycles or whatever. So I guess we'll see what those are like when they get here, but we'll tidy all that up and make it look pretty. But now my whole thing is getting the fairing back on, make sure that all fits, and doing whatever little minor modifications we need to do to that to make it work. So now we have the fairing just lined up to it. It's not clicked into place because we do have a little bit further to go back, but this is a section here that we are interfering with. I can't get past that cable, and I need to have it in the position that it's in. So, I mean, the only way you can avoid that is having like some way to bring the bars back. And, well, these grips are more forward. I knew I was going to run into something. So I have it marked. Now it's time to do the part that we can't undo and cut into our new fairing a little bit so we can get it to all go together. But our signal lights are close. They are touching just barely, but they are gonna fit. And I think we should have enough room, hopefully, on the other side as well, once we clearance on that side. So fingers crossed, because once we start cutting, we can't go back. All right, well, I can't wait, and I need to adjust my cables anyways, so we're gonna be doing the air intake on this video as well, so you guys get a bonus. And what we have here, of course I had to tear into it like a bear. We have this air filter here, and we have the Arlen Ness big sucker. So this should give us a little bit more of a custom look to our air cleaner. This is our billet cover, and then it's going to be replacing this one here, which I don't think looks bad. The original Harley one is cool. It does have this big warning label on the top of it, but I think this is going to give us a little bit more air, and I needed an air filter anyway, so why not just upgrade while we're there? And let's get all the stuff out of the box and show you guys exactly what we're looking at, because I want to adjust my throttle cables anyway, and getting the air cleaner off will show the blades for the throttle body, and then we can see exactly, make sure our adjustments are right so the blade is all the way open at full throttle. So 3/16 Allen key. I will get this bolt off of here. Get our cover removed. Get that out of there. And this is our, I don't know if this is a factory air filter or if it's been changed out. But you can see it is pretty dirty, so obviously in need of cleaning or replacement. So let's get it out of there and we can get our new parts installed. All right, so we got our T27. I'm gonna get in here, get these bolts removed. All right, get that out of our way. So this is a Centec filter. Drop in the comments. Is that a factory filter? I'm not entirely sure, but definitely time for replacement. Now we got our 14 millimeter in here. These ones are nice and tight. We got our little baby, basically a 1/4 inch ratchet, but it has a 3/8 head on it. So get in here and get this guy removed. Pretty good ratchet for small jobs for sure. Not to go too crazy on stuff like this. We're dropping a bolt. Let's drop it all. Drop that. Okay. Get this out of the way, and now the bolt has disappeared, which is a common theme. Bolts are scared and they take off, much like the little guys in the throttle. They like to do that too. The little brass pieces like to take off on us, give us the slip. All right, so now that our old parts are off, this is what we're left with. And then what we're gonna do is, obviously it's not adjusted right now, but if we go wide open, you can see the blade it's pretty open, but it's not all the way open. So we're gonna adjust that, get that sorted, get all our cables figured out, and then we'll install our big sucker. All right, so as far as my throttle goes, I have one of my cables adjusted all the way. This is what the return cable, this guy here, I have it adjusted all the way down, and that is just for the snapback. And I'm kind of at my limit with my distance just because of the fairing and how I have to have these routed. But they do have lots of clearance, and we have good snapback on our throttle. That's what you want to have. You want to make sure that thing returns in every position, even like cranked all the way. It's not super quick, but it is going all the way and all the way that way. We still got snapping back, and generally in this position is where we're going to be at. So that is adjusted and it returns the way it's supposed to. And we also have as much blade opening as possible. It's not perfect. I mean, we still have it. Maybe it could open just slightly more, but that's the best we could do with having it return properly. That's kind of the game you got to play with those cables from my experience so far. And now getting into our instructions, they do say to remove this bracket because our bike is an 07 plus, being the 2020, so it is pretty tight. But I'll get that out of the way. And as per our instructions, there are a bunch of parts with this kit, so grab that guy, add it to our OEM parts pile right there. Anybody else like pizza Pringles? I don't eat a lot of snacks, but we had a bunch there, so up at the house, so I figured I'd bring a couple down just in case we need some snacks in the shop. Don't want to go hungry. Never a good scene. All right, so we got it stripped down to that point. We do have a little bit of filings, or maybe a little bit of thread sealant or thread locker in there. We don't want to get that into our throttle body, so should we clean all that out really good. I'm going to get a rag and give that throttle body a clean anyhow. So we got our parts set out here. This is our backing plate. You can see the grooves right there, and these are our O-rings. So I'm going to take some 111 and just put a little bit of that on there just to give us a little bit of lubrication, just so none of these fall out of there. Also keeps the O-rings lubed up over time so they don't dry out. And you don't want these falling off when you're putting it together and not knowing. Don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. You just kind of get a little bit on there like so. Move it around with your fingers a bit. And then just kind of make sure the lube is all around. I'm just gonna run your finger along, make sure it's all seated, and we get our 111 all around where we need it. And now we can move on to our bolts. And you'll see in the kit there are 4 O-rings, and there's grooves on the front side of our backing plate as well. So you're gonna do the same process over there and lube up some O-rings and get them in their grooves. So now we have these studs to install. This is an 1/8" Allen, and they say to put thread locker on it. Also with the 111, I mean, this stuff's pretty common, but if you don't have any, they don't supply any. So there's that. I have this thread locker. Probably should use blue, but I haven't had any trouble with red. We'll just use a little bit of that. Obviously, I don't plan on taking this off anyway, but, you know, at your own discretion, obviously. This is what I have, so this is what I'm going to use, and we're going to torque these to, this is 36 to 60 inch-pounds or 3 to 5 foot-pounds. So we'll torque those up. These go into the throttle body, and then these are actually going to go on the other side once we mount our plate. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a friend of instructions, but this one was able to torque. You can feel the threads on the other side, but this one torqued up, no problem. And these ones, they want to go all the way through. So I have a little bit sticking out on either one. There's thread locker on them. So when we put our other bolts or fasteners, the guys that look like this on there, that will pull tight and no big deal. So I'm going to put some thread locker obviously on these as well. And then we have our banjo bolts. They call them a couple different things. They call them breather bolts and they call them banjo bolts, but essentially they're banjo bolts. So there's another torque spec for these. It's like 10 to 12 foot-pounds. So what holds it on is those studs that we have in our throttle body. And then we have these guys here, and we'll torque these down with some Loctite, and that will get our backing plate in place. Just make sure your O-rings are nicely where they need to be and all lubed up, and we'll get that onto the bike. But before that, we've got our gasket stack here. Because it is a throttle body version, we do have the spacer, so that goes in between these two gaskets. And then you can see your orientation. And today for install, we are using our Suzumi torque wrench kit, which is pretty awesome. We do have 3 torque wrenches and all extensions, things like that, get you going. We got the little 1/4 inch, then we got the 3/8, which we got on the bike right now. And we're going to, I'm doing 4 foot-pounds because it says 3 to 5, so see, nicely torqued, nothing crazy. And obviously we have our thread locker on those as well, and then our banjo bolts. I got everything run up with the ratchet, just nice and loose, but before I torqued anything, I made sure everything was all the way in, just so you don't have anything that's needs to line up or whatever, just to make sure everything's seated in its place before you torque everything down. Now for our breather bolts or banjo bolts, whatever they want to call these, they call them both in different lines, but get those tightened down. I got mine set to 11. Check this one. And we're all torqued up on our backing plate. So now we got our filter on. These are 4mm Allens, and I have Loctite on each one. Torque them down to 4 foot-pounds. It's the same 3 to 5 range, so we're right in the middle there, and everything is torqued down so far, and we're ready for our outer plate. And now for our final torque. This is a 3/16 Allen. Feel like we're switching back and forth between metric and standard a lot, but these are the ones that fit, and that's what we're using. So we're going to 5 foot-pounds of this one, and there it is. Wow, look at that. Definitely brings a little more red into this side of the bike, because we do have our spark plug wires over there, and then look at that. I love the way that looks. A little bit more gloss too, because we got the denim black, we got the gloss there, gloss on the forks. Just kind of brings it all together with the bike. Definitely drop in the comments. What do you guys think of the Arlen Ness Big Sucker intake? I think it looks pretty awesome. Well, we got to give you guys a start up and everything. I was going to bring the bike outside, but then the truck needed to be charged. It's like 11.6 volts. So let that charge a little bit and we'll be out the door. I haven't been driving it, honestly, because diesel prices are crazy and I have other vehicles. So it's been sitting and I really need to drive it more. But it's almost, what, $6.30 a gallon? It's crazy. So anyways, we're going to get the bike out, give you guys some of the intake noise, just kind of how the bars fit and everything like that. I'm interested to see how the bars work with my riding position, just leaning forward a little bit more. But I mean, I love the look of it. It does match with we have the cross stitch here, like the diamond stitch rather. And then we have kind of that vibe going here with our Vans. I don't really, there's a little bit of looseness to this. I don't really like that too much, but once you're into the throttle, maybe it's not going to be a thing. I don't know. That's just one thing I did notice, but I do like the way it all looks. I do have these bands on here. These are just rubber wire ties that I got from Amazon for $7 or whatever, but they know how to get you to buy 2 kits because they only give you 3 of the bigger ones and they give you 3 of the smaller ones. So obviously you're probably going to need 4 of them, right? So I just took 2 of the smaller ones, hooked them together, and I was able to use it for that. So it looks good to me. I mean, what do you guys think? Wires are nicely tucked out of the way. Bars are nice and forward. Mirrors don't hit the tank anymore. And all we got left to do now is get rid of these junk signal lights. This one is, it's kind of that bluey tint. It looks cheap. I never liked it ever since I got the bike. And then obviously this one here was broken and fell off. So now we have Hogworks ones on the way. Hopefully they come soon, and then we can throw those in and complete the look of the front of the bike. All right, so first startup, obviously it's going to be more of a high idle sound, but a whole lot of noise out of the air intake. Maybe on first startup I heard it a little bit. Nothing crazy. Obviously it's pretty hard to hear anything over those pipes other than that. But I'm liking the setup so far with the bars. I am feeling like I'm reaching out a lot more than I was before, and I rode around for a little bit and haven't felt any kind of fatigue or anything like that, but it's really going to take time to get used to and ride for a while. That's one of those things about changing things up, about your ergonomics, is you really have to put the time in and see if that was the right choice or whatever. But so far so good. I really do like the way that it looks, and the feeling and the control and everything is pretty awesome as well. So first impressions about the big sucker and our Kraus bars. I'm thinking the reach is going to be okay. I do have a little bit of tension in my one shoulder, but that could just mean that I need to stretch some more or something like that. But once I ride it more, I'm really going to know that for sure. But it is a fair amount of reach. So if you don't have long arms, I would not recommend this. But I do like the look of it, and I do have long arms. So I guess we'll see how longer rides and everything else work out with it. So far, so good. The control is good. I really like that. I do like the throttle response that you do get from the big sucker. You notice a small increase, nothing crazy. You don't expect like a supercharger or anything like that, but it gives you a little more sound slightly when you're getting into it. Every once in a while you can hear a little bit more, but definitely gives you a little bit more torque, I feel. And obviously you can see your element now, so if it gets dirty, you know, if it needs to be changed, you don't have to take it apart like the old style one. And we're obviously getting a whole lot more air, so it can be something that if we want to tune it later on, we have that addition to our bike for that extra air. We can add a little more fuel. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and as always, keep that hammer down.